Well, hi, everybody. Thanks for joining the City of Oklahoma City's winter weather update for February 17th. Joining us today on the line are professionals who are working hard to provide services to our residents during this historic winter weather event. Today, we're going to hear from Mayor David Holt, City Manager Craig Freeman, Street Superintendent Raymond Melton, Utilities Director Chris Browning, from the City County Health Department, Blaine Bolding. From OG, we have Kent Shortridge. With OG&E, we have David Kimmel. With Homeless Outreach, we have Jared Shadid. With Embark, Jason Fairbrush. And Animal Welfare, we have John Gary. Other people that we have on the line include Adam with IMSA, Captain Stewart, who is a police officer, Josh with airports, Melinda with parks and the Red Andrew Warming Center, our emergency manager, Captain Frank Barnes, and our deaf sign language interpreter is Rachel Hollis. And I want to remind you that we'll take questions from reporters at the end of these presentations. So just raise your hand or let me know in the chat that you would like to ask a question, and we'll take all questions. So now I'd like to turn it over to our mayor, David Holt.
Thank you, Christy. Again, thank you to you and Zach and the whole PIO team for putting this together. And thanks as well to the team here that joins us and our partners that join us and the local media that share this information with our residents. So it is Wednesday. That means this event started about Sunday. That means if you've looked at the weather, that temperatures will not rise above freezing any earlier than Friday. All of this means we're about halfway. I know we said that yesterday. Maybe we were being a little optimistic. Obviously, we were probably pushing that envelope, but we're definitely halfway or a little over as we sit here today. And I think, a lot of these events, they start as kind of a novelty and maybe a welcome break from routines. And then we start to lose our patience and nerves are frayed. And we're certainly, I think, in that part of this event now. And obviously, it doesn't help that this winter weather event is battering our city. The low temperatures and the snow are creating a really toxic environment in our city. And our workers are out there fixing, as I'm told, over 30 line breaks right now. And that effect obviously is being felt across the city. We dealt yesterday with the rolling blackouts, and that obviously frayed nerves and obviously affected lives in a very material way. And we're also dealing with our roads, although that maybe hasn't yet entered every one of our individual lives yet, because we're largely staying home. And thank you for that. You have taken in largely staying home. I don't see a lot of cars drive by my house. I don't see a lot of cars on TV when I watch the reports. So I'm hopeful that we continue our good luck there and not put another burden on the city by putting a lot of cars on the roads. But I know that by Friday and Saturday, people are going to want to get out. And please be conscious of the fact that even though temperatures may rise above freezing by Friday, we're talking like 2 degrees above freezing. I mean, this snow is going to be around for a very long time, at least another week after that, probably, that we're going to have some impact from the snow itself. Fortunately, temperatures are rising just a little bit. We are still well below freezing. This would be extraordinarily cold weather under any normal circumstance, but it's a little bit warmer than it was the last few days, and that is probably helping the overall situation. But I think the theme you'll hear today, there's a lot of issues that are going to be covered. They're all very important, but obviously water is a primary concern right now. Streets, I think, will be of growing concern, and please be careful and patient with that situation. And then obviously energy. We'll hear from our partner ONG on that in a few minutes. But let me say one last thing about water. It's really great that everybody is at home. It's really great that you are running, dripping your faucets and maybe running a little bit of a stream. That's important, and we encourage that. But all of us being home, all of us dripping our faucets, has elevated the usage levels to really summertime levels. They are double what we would expect for this time of year. That and the mini line breaks from our extreme temperatures are causing water pressure issues across the city. So I think the one thing I would say, sort of human to human, is just see if you can step back the water usage in other areas. Keep dripping those faucets, but maybe take a shorter shower. Maybe don't run the wash, maybe set aside the laundry for a couple days, and try to just be conscious of it. Nobody has to go cold turkey on water, but I think if you step it back just a little bit and you're conscious of the issue and the need for a little bit of conservation, I think we'll see enough pulling back that will help the situation overall. So I did want to mention that. And I also, of course, don't want to ever miss the opportunity to thank our line workers, our plant workers. I mean, I hope that we have many opportunities in the future to talk about the heroism of our utilities department in the days ahead. They have done yeoman's work keeping our water running here in Oklahoma City. And of course, our street workers continuing to clear the roads. They've, I'm told, circumnavigated the globe at this point. And we're also, of course, grateful to our public safety and first responders and everybody who's out there making sure that we can live our lives peacefully and warmly. And of course, would never want to fail to mention the homelessness service provider community and the amazing work that they're doing. And with that, again, to the team captain, I would like to hand off the baton, Craig Freeman, the city manager of the city of Oklahoma City, who is leading many of these efforts.
Thank you, Mayor. I really, the words that I want to say, I do want to recognize the work of our employees, but first I just want to acknowledge that, we understand many of our residents have been experiencing water service difficulty with low water pressure, and in some cases, you maybe even temporarily lost water service entirely for a short period. We hate it when we aren't able to serve our residents the way that we normally do. And we understand your frustration when you have a problem with such a critical service. I want to assure you that our teams are out there doing everything they can to work as quickly as possible to get service restored. Like the mayor said, there's so much demand on the system right now that when we have these outages, we have problems that it's harder for the system to catch back up. And so it's not an excuse, it's just a reality that we're facing right now. And we acknowledge that, and we do understand your frustration, and we do hear you. But I do want to let you know that, as we're out there working, it's those crews that are on the front line, that they're working every day and working hard to try to make sure that you have the service that you need. And we want to be able to get back to where we can serve you at a normal level as quickly as possible. And so we're really working to do that. And I do want to, again, express appreciation to all of our crews that are out there, all of our workers that are out there. They're working every single day and a lot of times throughout the night to try to make sure that we all have the services that we need in order to be able to serve us, to protect us, and to keep us safe. And I just want to express my appreciation again to them. You will hear from leaders today from the city organization as well as from a lot of our partner agencies, and I appreciate them staying on top of this and being able to provide good updates for us and for the public so that we know what's happening within the community in this challenging time. So I'm going to turn it back to Christy, and she'll walk us through the presentation this afternoon.
Well, we always start with our street superintendent, and that's Raymond Melton.
Thanks, Christy. Our streets crews are still in full-scale staffing, working around the clock to keep city streets as clear as possible. The city snow routes right now are in very good condition. We're getting there. Currently, we have 24 trucks working the city snow routes. We still have approximately 9,000 tons of salt in storage. And with the rise in the temperatures and the sunshine, we have been able to return to salting the roadways. The city's contractors were once again put into action this morning. They will be mainly working the downtown snow routes, giving our crews the opportunity to focus on the rest of the snow routes. We encourage everyone to stay at home if possible, and that will allow our snow vehicles to do their job. We understand how frustrating this has been, but I believe we've turned a corner and should see a marked improvements over the next few days on our city streets. I remind you that our snow route, you can find a map at www.okc.gov. Thank our residents for your patience and support. We're very thankful for all of our partners that are working so hard to get us through a very difficult time. I believe that we have seen an example of the Oklahoma Standard in action during this event. Thank you.
Thanks, Raymond. Next up is Chris Browning. He is the director of our utilities department. And your mic is muted.
I do that all the time. Thank you, Christy.
It's okay. You're not the first.
I'm sure I'm not. So you heard the general condition or challenges of our water system from Mayor Holt and City Manager Freeman. So I'm going to give you some details to let you have a better understanding of what we're doing and what our challenges are. Crews continue to work around the clock to repair multiple main breaks. We've had 31 breaks in the last 3 days, and we've responded to over 400 service calls where people call in because they don't have water, and we get to their homes or their business and their service lines are frozen or broken. So we've been responding to those at very high numbers of calls in that regard. Currently, we have 5 main breaks under repair. Water main breaks are taking longer to repair because ice and snow is covering the valves, making them harder to locate, and the freezing temperatures are creating challenges for the crews where we have to rotate crews out so that they can warm, so they don't get overexposed. So it's taken us a little bit longer to repair those breaks. There's also a water booster station out of service, significantly impacting the customers within the area from to Northwest 10th, from Sarah Road to Portland. Staff is working diligently to correct that problem, but one of the biggest challenges we have there is the water demand is so high that we're even having a hard time getting water to that station so that we can boost the pressure. Our current water demand, as the mayor said, is double our typical winter usage. Normal wintertime demand is about 75 million gallons a day, and currently we're pumping over 150 million gallons a day. To compound that problem, we generally do our facility repairs in the wintertime when the demand is low. So we have some of the components of both the Draper water treatment facility and the Hefner water facility out for repair. So the maximum we can produce is just over 150 million gallons a day. Keep in mind, we serve 225,000 customers in Oklahoma City, and we also serve 18 other cities and water districts in central Oklahoma. So we have a total population served of over 1.4 million people. So if you consider people are running their faucets in the cold temperatures to keep their pipes from freezing, we have a really big footprint, and 150 million gallons a day sounds like a lot of water, but it doesn't go very far when everybody's using the water continuously. We normally see peaks in the mornings when people are getting up, getting ready to go to work, getting ready to go to school. And then another peak in the evening when people are coming home, cooking dinner, bathing, those kinds of things. But now, because of the faucets running, we're seeing a continuous demand on the system where we're unable to recharge our tanks and booster stations throughout the city. Normally at nighttime, we can refill everything and we can make it through the peak demands during the day. But because of the faucets running continuously, in addition to everything else that people are doing, we're having a very difficult time keeping up with the demand. And that's causing pressure problems throughout the whole city. So I ask you to try to reduce the demand, as the mayor indicated. We can do a few things, but if you run your faucets, try to consider this. Run the faucets that are on exterior walls to keep the pipes from freezing. And if you don't have faucets on the exterior walls, run 1 or 2 interior to keep your water service line from freezing, but try not to do any more than that. And try to keep the stream about the size of a pencil lead. That pencil lead, believe it or not, stream is about 75 gallons a day. So if you're running multiple faucets, that's 75 gallons per faucet per day times the number of connections. And when we have 225,000 connections just in Oklahoma City, and then we have our other 18 other cities that we serve, that's a lot of water. So try to keep that stream as low as you can to keep your pipes from freezing. One last thing, even when the temperatures recover, our problems are not over. We have soils here in Oklahoma City that are very fluid when they freeze and then they thaw. We're going to see more main breaks next week. So we're going to continue to have problems next week. But the good thing is, hopefully you all won't be running your water around the clock. So with that, that is the end of my report. Thank you very much, Christy.
Thanks, Chris. I know everybody appreciates that. So next on the line, we have a new speaker for us. It is Blaine Bolding. He is the Chief of Public Health Protection for the Oklahoma City County Health Department. And he's going to talk a little bit about what they're doing with vaccinations during this winter time.
Thanks, Christy. Yes, we've also been impacted, obviously, with our vaccine administration with the weather. And this week we had clinics scheduled Tuesday through Saturday each day, and mostly continuing to focus on that 65 and older population, but also we have many second dose clinics that we've had planned. We've had to postpone our clinics Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. That was 4 total clinics. All those have been rescheduled for next week, and all those folks have been notified as well. But also, as you know, next week, on Monday, we open up to another phase, which includes teachers, K through 12, and then those who are 16 to 64 in age with comorbidities. So we have some of that planned as well next week. Towards the end of the week, have some special clinics focused on teachers. One other struggle with the weather this week has been our vaccine delivery from the federal government has not arrived this week. So it hasn't been too hard on us, I guess, to postpone these clinics. We have enough vaccine now on hand to continue with what we have scheduled through the rest of Friday and Saturday this week. So we have 2 clinics on Friday, one with us and one with Mercy, and then a partnership with Mercy and Integris on Saturday as well. And we do have enough vaccine on hand for that. But we are due to receive this weekend now. Typically we receive on Tuesday, Wednesdays, should receive it this weekend, enough vaccine for a very heavy campaign next week.
That's great news. Thank you. Appreciate your time. Next will be Kent Shortridge, Managing Vice President of Operations for ONG.
Yeah, thank you, Christy. Good afternoon, everyone. At this time, we are not experiencing any significant system issues or outages. However, nothing has changed on the supply front yet, and that continues to be an area of concern for us. The most important thing right now is to please keep up the conservation efforts, continued vigilance in reducing the amount of natural gas used where possible is critical until we get past this extreme cold weather. The reduction in gas usage by our large customers has been a key factor in avoiding disruptions. So I want to reiterate my thanks to those businesses for doing their part for our community. I also want to thank our upstream pipeline and storage operators and providers. They are also doing everything they can to keep supply coming to us as well. We also want to commend the response we are seeing from all of our customers. Not only are you helping your fellow neighbor, but you're helping our employees in the field right now, trying to make sure that we all stay safe and warm. So thank you for your continued efforts. I'm going to quote the mayor again. Maybe at best we're at halftime, and we still got a few more days to go. If we all do our part, we can get through this. So thank you very much, Christy.
Thank you. Next up, David Kimmel with OG&E.
Thank you, Christy. For OG&E, we currently have about 2,200 customers on the OG&E system who are experiencing outages really due to one circuit outage here in Oklahoma City. Crews are on site working that. It is not related to any sort of planned service interruption at this point. The Southwest Power Pool has actually stepped back to a level EEA1 from the EEA2 where we have been at since last night at around 6:30. So, that's a very positive step. As everyone has kind of said, as Kent has said just a moment ago, we're far from being out of the woods just yet. So we still need to be vigilant. Going to reiterate his call for conservation and his thanks. The customers we've asked for to conserve the energy and electricity and natural gas have done a phenomenal job so far in helping to mitigate some of the issues that we've been seeing with the power grid. And so just continue those conservation efforts. Keep the thermostat down, set to wherever you can. Keep those appliances on standby. As the mayor said, if you can, push the laundry back a day or two. Just anything you can do to help conserve that energy is very helpful. and hopefully we'll continue to push through this and mitigate any further of the temporary power interruptions that we've had to experience. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Our next speaker is the city's homeless program planner. His name is Jared Shatted. Jared?
Yes. Capacity at the Willard Winter Shelter last night was 242. That's about the same as it was the night before, so it still did not reach capacity. That's good for staffing. Still not great because we didn't get as many people out as the cold as we would have liked. Did have higher utilization at Salvation Army. Had 17 women staying over there last night. It's been a busy day at the Homeless Alliance Day Shelter this morning. They served about 250 breakfasts. It's tuned down about for the lunch hour to about 182 lunches. Outreach for pretty much across the board except for BA is out today. That's Homeless Alliance, Mental Health Association, our police team, and Goodwill. Unfortunately, just got a report right before getting on the call here that we have had at least one fatality. A male in his 50s that was found close to Reno in May. Just want to let that be a reminder if anyone thinks that the snow not coming down makes it safer. It's not. Anybody you see on the street, please still try to convince them to get to the Willard location. That's at 3rd and McKinley. Since that has not filled up, they should be able to get in there. And if it does fill up, we've got backup capacity to get people that need to go. They can still need to get out of the cold until this gets above freezing. So please, if you've got to scream it out your car window or stop and tell somebody, do whatever you got to do to try to get them to go. I want to thank our service providers again, just Homeless Alliance, Mental Health Association, City Rescue, and Salvation, as well as Pivot and CSU. They've also kept their doors open around the clock, as well as the Interfaith Alliance has also provided a lot of help to get people into other services like hotel rooms and whatnot. I think we're still doing good on supplies, pretty much, but I would say watch all those organizations' social media. They're going to be faster at updating it than I will. You can watch ours too. It's at Home OKC, but again, I don't have my own PIO person just for homeless services, so they're going to be a little bit faster about updating it. So you might just keep an eye on theirs. And yeah, that's I think all I've got for right now.
Thanks, Jared. It's always tragic when we lose somebody, and I believe that may be our first snow and ice related fatality.
Yes, it's the first one we know of among the homeless population. I checked with Outreach this morning, and before I received that notice, before getting on the call, that they had not received any calls. So we just found that one out shortly before this meeting.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to Jason Fairbrush. He is with Embark.
Yeah, thank you, Christy, and good afternoon, everyone. Providing a quick update of the transportation and parking services in the city. I'll start by talking about our Embark fixed route bus system. As I mentioned in previous days, we are running a reduced schedule, which means 1 hour frequency for our customers from 6:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. In addition to checking our website for the latest in terms of weather impact to our service. Also continuing to encourage customers to use the SMS texting feature to learn the real-time arrival information for any bus they may be taking. But in particular, one of the things we've been doing here over the last 2 days is sending out regular updates through our social media accounts, just to kind of try to give an overall status of the bus system. So for example, one of the recent updates we sent out identified 7 routes that were running at least 20 minutes behind, with others pretty much on schedule. So we're trying to reach customers as diligently as we can, knowing that these cold temperatures are really creating situations where we want to minimize any wait time. We have identified approximately 6 areas along our routes that are causing us particular problems, and we've coordinated with Public Works to try to get some additional help in plowing and removing snow in those locations. You will perhaps see a few of our buses that are stuck on routes. We do currently have 7 buses that we're working to free from the snow. This is not stopping the service though. We're either putting out replacement buses on those routes and or in some cases using our supervisors and supervisor vehicles to take those customers to their final destination while we get the bus out of the snow. So service from that standpoint is continuing. Yesterday alone, although a fraction of what we normally provide in terms of trips, we did have over 1,600 trips on our fixed route system. So there are still plenty of individuals in our community that are relying on this essential service. We're also continuing the transportation from the Willard Center to Homeless Alliance and the Red Andrews Warming Center. Yesterday alone, our trip count was up considerably. We did 358 trips. We used 2 buses. Today, we're planning on putting 4 buses out there. So anyway, those transportation services continue. Again, Oklahoma City streetcar service is temporarily suspended. We're going to be looking at that and evaluating it day to day. Our parking facilities, as I mentioned yesterday, are all open for business. However, we are having elevator issues in both the Civic Center parking garage and the Arts District parking garage. So with that, I guess my closing comments would be we have determined we're going to continue to run our reduced service levels tomorrow. So customers should, again, familiarize yourself with the weekend schedules. Oklahoma City streetcar service will continue to be suspended for tomorrow. And that will conclude my report.
Thanks, Jason. John Gary is up next. He is our animal welfare superintendent.
Thanks, Christy. I just have a couple of things. First is same story we've been saying since all this started, to make sure you're keeping your pets inside. We are still receiving a good number of calls for pets being left outside without shelter. Thankfully, those calls are going down, but we still are receiving far more than we'd like. Secondly, the storm that came in last night has made it very difficult to respond to calls. The main roads our officers have been able to get through, but most of our calls come in neighborhoods that are not touched, that are not plowed. So getting to these have been a very big challenge. We've had a lot of trucks getting stuck today. And so we only have about 4 or 5 officers available to get out to these calls due to the weather and what's going on with the trucks. So it's just important that people understand that our response time is going to be longer than normal. And in some cases, if it's not an immediate emergency, we may be contacting you to say, we'll do this tomorrow or at a later date. We're going to try to get to the ones where the health and welfare of people or animals are at risk. And the other calls we're going to have to, hold off on until we're able to maneuver through these streets a little bit better.
Thanks, John. We're gonna go back to Blaine Bolding. He has something else he'd like to add.
Oh, yes. And those of you who are looking for an appointment for COVID vaccination here in Oklahoma County, we would want to direct you to vaxokc.com. That is VAXOKC.com. And that lists all the places that you can get an appointment here in Oklahoma County.
Thanks. I'd like to also go back to Chris Browning. He has had some interruptions in the trash service for Oklahoma City residents. Chris, can you give an update or let people know how their trash day has been affected?
Yes, absolutely, Christy. The plan is to begin the normal collection for the Thursday, Friday routes tomorrow, Thursday. And then the makeup day for Monday would be Saturday, and the makeup day for Tuesday will be Sunday. Bulky will be collected tomorrow through Sunday and recycle the same schedule as the trash cycle so that we can get back to normal operations next Monday. So again, that's tomorrow, normal trash pickup, Friday, normal trash pickup, Saturday would be Monday, normal collection, and Sunday will be Tuesday, normal collection. So that's the plan. Hopefully Mother Nature will allow us to proceed. We are having a little trouble with our diesel vehicles in the cold, but fortunately, most of our trash collection trucks are CNG, so we should not be experiencing that problem with them. So that's the plan, Christy.
Thanks. So now we're going to go on to questions from the reporters who are on the line. I've got questions so far that we'll call on Jennifer Pierce with Channel 9, Ken with the Associated Press, Ashley with Channel 9, Brett with the Free Press, and Brent with Channel 4. If other people have questions, just let me know. And so Paris has a question too. So let's start with Jennifer Pierce with Channel 9.
Hi, thank you for taking my questions. Just one for Chris Browning. You mentioned the water main breaks. Do you have the locations for those? And do you have a number of how many Oklahoma City residents total are without water or experiencing low pressure?
Well, I'll start with the low pressure first because that's the easy one. We're experiencing low pressure generally throughout the city. In the area that I identified where we're having the booster station problem, we're experiencing extremely low pressures in that area. So that is Portland to Sarah Road, Wilshire to 10th, Northwest 10th. Now the number of water main breaks, we're working on 5. I do not have the exact location of those right now. It is my understanding that they're small water mains, so not a large number of people out of water for the main repair.
But you don't have a number of residents. Would it be in the hundreds, thousands?
I would say hundreds, not thousands, and maybe not even that many. It depends on where the mains are.
Okay. And when do you expect the water mains to be fixed, or can you even say?
Normally, I could say it normally takes a few hours, but with these conditions, it's taking longer. But I assure you, crews are on site until the main is repaired. And so we are working diligently to get water service restored in those areas.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Browning.
Yes, ma'am.
And the next question we'll take is from Ken Miller with the Associated Press.
Thank you, and thank all of you for your time. I just wanted to ask about, and forgive me in advance, social media is various places reporting that someone in Oklahoma City who on a mechanical life-saving device, such as an oxygen machine, I don't know that that's exactly it, died when the electricity to that person's home went out. Can anyone address that, confirm, refute that?
Just before we got on this call, Captain Stewart had looked into deaths and he did not mention that. Captain, would this be a death like this that your homicide detectives would know about? He may have stepped away, or he may be asking that question, Ken.
No, it is something I can look into. What I specifically asked for was cold-related, temperature-related deaths, which is what Jared reported earlier. I'll look into what he's asking about and see if I can't find an answer.
Thank you, Captain. Have there been? I realize Jared mentioned the homeless. Have there been any other cold-related deaths? And I'm presuming, dangerous on my part, that these are not yet confirmed. It would be a information by the medical examiner as to the cause.
Are you referring to just homeless related or other cold related deaths?
Both, actually, yes.
This is the first one we've had related to the homeless population, which has been very surprising, but also, as I've said on the meetings previously, we can't promise it's going to be the last. Of course, with the weather, it's been hard for outreach to reach some locations. Camps can be far out in the field, so they may not. The reason they may not have found anybody is because they may not have been able to get out there. We're anticipating, well, we think it will be likely that we may find more people next week. We are very much hoping that we don't. But right now, the incident I reported earlier is the first one that we know for sure has occurred.
It is the cold, or are you an ME report to confirm the cause?
I'm sorry, you broke up on me there.
I apologize. Can you confirm it is indeed because of the cold weather, or is that something you would wait for the ME to let you know?
Well, Dan can answer that.
Yeah, so we're always going to refer to the ME to give us an actual cause of death, but early indications indicate that it's cold related. The ME did come and pick up the body, and the ME will, make a final decision. We believe that's what it's going to be, but obviously we would have to wait for the ME to confirm that.
Captain, thank you all.
Thanks, Ken. Next, I'd like to call on Ashley Holden with Channel 9.
Yes, thank you guys so much for doing this and updating us. My question is for Mayor Holt. This whole meeting, pretty much all of everyone that we've heard of has talked about conserving energy. So I want to ask, what was the conversation, the decision-making process that went into the Thunder game last night?
Okay, yeah. Well, I think your question illustrates a bit of a myth that kind of developed in the last 24 hours, that there's a decision to be made. When we sign a lease, when we, the city, sign a lease with an entity, we are then subject to the terms of that lease, and the Thunder have a valid lease to play their games. We're not under any type of local emergency that legally gives us any additional authority than we currently have. So we lacked any discretion in that situation. That was entirely up to either the Thunder or the NBA to make decisions. Sometimes I've noticed that people have analogized it to something that happened in Texas where the Mavericks game was canceled, but that was the result of a gubernatorial order that we did not have in this situation. So all we were left with as the landlord was to talk to them. They are our partners, and they've always been great partners. And we did have those discussions, and they did, as I think you probably know, agreed to significantly reduce their energy consumption, and that was what they ultimately did. But we did not make a decision to allow them to play or anything like that. I mean, it's not really we did not have that discretion. Yes, we own the building, but once you sign a lease with somebody, you have to keep your word, and there was not any additional legal authority that we possessed in this situation to override our valid lease. And I'm pleased that they were responsive to the situation, and clearly, as Channel 9 and other stations reported, clearly stepped back their energy consumption significantly.
So I want to follow up with, we're hearing from people all over that they're upset, they're angry, they feel like things should have been shut down. I know you addressed kind of the issue behind that and what goes into that. What is your message to them? Do you relate to their concerns with these people having to conserve their own power, not do their dishes, not do their laundry? What would you say to them?
Sure. I mean, look, I'm at home. We're all conserving energy. I'm in the same boat as everybody, and my power was out for almost an hour and a half yesterday, right at the beginning of council meeting, which was not terribly convenient. And I've got a father upstairs who's using oxygen who didn't have that during that time period. He's okay, but we certainly are experiencing the same thing that everybody else is. I hear everybody. I guess maybe I have failed to fully communicate to you properly that there is nothing we could do about that. And I'm sorry that people got that impression. And oftentimes these are opportunities for civic education about how the rule of law works or how municipal government works. But there was never a moment where we decided they would be allowed to play their game, because that's not an authority we possess. I mean, that decision was essentially made in 2008 when we signed a lease with them for the use of our building. We're not in any kind of we use the word emergency casually, but I'm using it in the legal sense. The city is not in an emergency situation. I do not, and the city does not have any additional authority we would normally have, and so we had to abide by that lease.
The state is under a state of emergency. So does the governor have that power to step in and say, no?
I wouldn't want to speculate. I mean, I recognize that happened in Texas, but but Texas is a different state with different laws, and I would be scared to make an answer to that question without consulting an attorney probably who's knowledgeable of those affairs, and I wouldn't want to speak for the governor for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
All right, Brett, are you on the line with the Free Press? Brett
I
Dickerson?
am, Christy. Thank you.
Oh, there you are. Hi.
Chris Browning, I have some questions for you here. And Chris, let me just preface my questions by saying I grew up on a farm and I understand fully well how extreme temperatures will test equipment that seems perfectly fine before the weather comes along. So I just want to let you know that I get how equipment breaks down with extreme temperatures, both hot and cold. Now, I wanted to ask you about the substation. There was an email that came out of utilities, I guess this morning, about a booster station in the northwest quadrant of Oklahoma City, and that had contributed some to the low water pressures. Can you address that a little bit more? Talk a little bit more about that substation in northwest Oklahoma City.
So we have quite a bit of elevation change throughout the city, and our treatment plants are on either, and we have Draper in the far southeast, and then we have Hefner kind of north central. And so we have booster stations around the city to transfer water efficiently throughout our 4,000 miles of pipe and to our 1.4 million people that we serve. So when these stations are out of service, we cannot gravity feed the water and certainly can't have the pressures that people are accustomed to throughout the service area. Most of the time, our pressures range between 60 and 80 pounds per square inch. So when we have these kinds of failures in our system, the pressure is impacted. Now, the failure in this case is a booster station, and I identified the area that's mostly impacted. It provides water to that area. The water plant pumps to that facility. The problem we're having is we can't hardly get the water to that facility because of the demand. Mechanically, the station's working. We just can't get the water there because of the elevation differential. And normally at nighttime, we would be able to resolve that problem. We have large storage tanks at that booster station. So we fill those tanks at nighttime. Well, we're not able to fill those tanks at nighttime because the demand has been double what it normally is this time of the year. So trying to break it down into simple terms, we have a water plant that just can't get the water to the booster station so that we can elevate the pressure to provide the adequate pressure to the area within the city that it serves.
Just to follow up on that, Chris, and thanks for that answer. What is the difference between right now and in the summertime when, I've lived in Oklahoma City for years, and seems like no matter how extreme the situation gets, you guys are really good at standing up to a demand issue in the middle of the summertime. And we've been told that these are summertime level demands on the system, but we see the system stand up summer after summer to that demand. So what's you kind of mentioned a little bit that you pulled some equipment offline in the wintertime to refit and things like that. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
I can. So at our Draper water treatment plant, we have 3 water treatment trains, and they each treat 50 million gallons a day. We have one of those trains out of service for repair right now. It's under construction to update so that it's fully functional by the summertime. At our Hefner treatment plant, we have filters that filter the water. And in the wintertime, we take some of them out of service to replace the filter media and repair anything that might need to be repaired in those filters. So right now we have a number of filters out of service. So in the summertime, we can treat with both plants 250 million gallons a day. Right now, our maximum, because of those components being out of service, is 150 million gallons a day. But keep in mind, that's double what our normal winter demand is. So we had plenty of capacity under even extreme conditions, but not storm of the century conditions.
So last question about that. What is this, you guys plan decades in advance in terms of what you're going to ask the city to fund in terms of upgrades to the system. Is this event going to change what, do you speculate that what you're learning about the condition of your equipment right now from this test, from the weather, is this going to change some of your plans for what you ask for in the future in terms of the city's budget and things like that?
Well, we have learned a thing or two, but what we can't do is, and I hate to put it this way, but we can't overreact to something that happens once in 100 years. So we can make some minor modifications, but I wouldn't recommend to the city or to the water trust that we spend hundreds of millions of dollars to rebuild our system to manage perfectly under a condition like this one. It's more likely that we'll get many other events that we are fully capable of managing. We have generators at Draper, we have generators at Hefner. We have hardened our system to manage wind events, ice storms, snow events, but not something that is 2 weeks long and sub-zero weather for an extended period of time. We just can't build a system that would be resistant to anything that might happen. So what we do is manage the best we can during these once in a century occasions, and then we move on. But we do learn a thing or two during these events that we can cause some improvement in the system, some minor modifications in the system, so that we can do a little bit better job if we get an event not this bad, but close.
Thank you very much for those answers, Chris. Christy, thank you for this time.
Next, we have Paris Jones.
Hey, Christy. Just following up on Brett's question. When we started finding out that we were receiving the below freezing temperatures, was there any type of, planning once we knew the forecast for this week? Was there any type of planning that could have maybe prevented some of the issues that we are seeing with the water services or maybe electrical services, that sort of thing?
Christy, I can take the water. Like I said a minute ago, we do have systems in place to enable our water treatment and our water distribution to be hardened to storm events. We have generators. We have generators at our booster stations. We have them at our water plants. We have had challenges this week with the diesel generators because it got so cold that it's freezing the fuel. So that's a challenge. We had a challenge at our Draper plant where the generators have an emission control system, an air quality system that has a chemical that is injected in accord with the EPA to limit the emissions from the generators. It got so cold that chemical froze. We even have heaters in the cabinets. And the reason why we had the problem is because we have large louvers that pull air into the building that house the generators that cools those generators. And unfortunately, the air temperature was so cold, it froze the chemical. So we found things that we could never anticipate. And we've been battling those things all week long, and we're still battling them. And we'll continue until everything goes back to normal. But we just can't anticipate everything. We anticipated most everything, but there's Mother Nature's thrown us a few curveballs this week.
Gotcha. Thank you.
So next up, I can promise everybody that our next disaster is going to be potholes throughout the city. So I can tell you that Raymond's crew will transition straight from snow removal to pothole patching. We already know that's going to happen. And you can, when people do see potholes, they can report them on okc.gov. They can also text them to us. We've got many ways that you can report potholes, but we already know that's going to be an emerging issue. It's just inevitable. One more person has questions on the line, and that's Bill Crum with the Oklahoman. Bill?
This is a follow-up to the question about the arena last night. I think the main draw on the electrical system was probably the lights for the TV broadcast and to light the inside of the arena. Who pays the electrical bill?
So the city pays that electrical bill as a part of our agreement with Thunder. It's actually with ASM, Global, who manages the facility, that they pay those costs, but then we actually on the utilities, we pay those costs. They pay other operating costs, and we'll pay the costs on those utilities.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks very much.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like, Craig, it's kind of like when you rent an apartment, you pay a flat rent and your landowner might pay, sometimes it's different, but might pay your utility costs regardless of how big or small they are.
Right. Okay.
Bill, do you have any other questions? I don't think so.
No, that was all. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So we don't have any other questions. I wanted to let everybody know that every evening we do put together a situation update and place it on okc.gov. So this evening, if you missed this news conference, you can watch it again, or you can just read our situation update on okc.gov. Again, thank you for joining us. We'll do this again tomorrow. I'm sure that we'll have a few updates. It seems that something is always happening. It's continuing to devolve in some ways. So we'll update you again tomorrow. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate everybody for